I'm your host, C. Reggie Rogers, renowned relationship coach, author, television host, radio host, podcast host, and I consider myself a singles empowerment coach. Now, when I say singles empowerment coach, my objective is to literally teach singles or empower singles what it means to become the one so that they attract. You know, breaking up really is so hard. Breakups are never easy for anyone. And so this month, we're going to be talking about It's Over, I'm Sick. So that was the thing that drew me to you, and I wanted to get some advice, some wisdom from you in regards to this dating process.
Yes.
I want to talk about it. Hello and welcome everybody tonight to this virtual gathering. We've put this virtual gathering together because our mission tonight is to enlighten, of course, and to empower, but ultimately we want to expand. And so we want to welcome those of you that are watching by Facebook and those of you that will be watching on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So tonight we've got an exciting show. And I want to lead this show off by saying that most of our lives, we've been operating from a program that was written when we were young. It's been installed by our environments, our experiences, by the repetition of the same thoughts and feelings. We wake up in the morning, and before we open our eyes, we are already thinking about our problems. We're anticipating our day based on our memory of yesterday. We are already selecting the same thoughts, which leads to the same choices, which leads to the same behaviors, which create the same experiences, which create the same emotions, and those same emotions drive the very same thoughts. This cycle is called a habit. This loop is called a personality. And this loop is also called your personal reality. So tonight, I want to break this apart for all of you because most people don't realize how important energy is and the role that expanded consciousness plays in all of this. Tonight, I've got a great panel, and my panel tonight of master thinkers, we're going to help to shift, hopefully, your thoughts, your emotions, and your choices. We have an evening of exploration, great exploration that is in store for all of you that will tune in this evening. This evening is all about enlightening, empowering, and ultimately expanding. We're going to explore what is expanded consciousness. We're hearing that a lot, and we've got some experts tonight that's going to help us to understand what expanded consciousness is and how does it impact your individual lives as well as our collective lives. And so before we get started tonight, please, I want all of you that are watching on YouTube, please like, please subscribe. And for those of you that will be joining us on Facebook, thank you. You can like there as well. So please allow me to introduce our wonderful panel of what I would like to call master thinkers. First one I want to introduce is my friend. He's my brother. Love this guy. Doing an amazing job there in Atlanta. Bishop D.E. Polk. He is the senior pastor of Spirit and Truth in Atlanta, Georgia, where he successfully transitioned an evangelical charismatic church into a thriving interfaith, LGBTQ plus affirming spiritual collective. He is the co-founder and presiding prelate of the International Communion of Expanding Consciousness, better known as ICEC. My friend, my brother, this is an ecumenical network that he has put together. Let's hear a great big applause for Bishop Polk. Next, I want to introduce is Pastor L.D. Hall, all the way from Toronto, Canada. She's a licensed and ordained minister with the Universal Foundation for Better Living, Inc. She is the senior minister of Verity Center for Better Living. She brings a message that resonates globally, championing the ethos of world peace and healthy living through conscious living and spiritual awareness. Let's give a great big applause for Pastor Lametria Hall, my sister. Next we have is Dr. Sophie Nubani. Of course, I've done many shows with Dr. Sophie, brilliant mind. She refers to herself as the catalyst of creative transformation. She emerges as a visionary, creative, interpersonal coach. She masterfully infuses science, spirituality, and human insight to unleash hidden potential. She is a certified NLP trainer and a master practitioner. Social and emotional intelligence coach, motivational coach. She holds a doctorate in spiritual development. Let's hear a great big applause for Dr. Sophie. Next is Ambassador Samuel Willie Newbed. He has studied psychology. He studied success psychology. He has earned a degree in civil law and order. He has obtained his BSc in criminal justice. Because of his zeal to help people become empowered, he started traveling and visiting mission fields with the sole aim of training and empowering. He is the host of The Carpenters that empowers ministers with the message of rest, restoration, and inclusion. Let's hear a great big applause for Ambassador Newbed. Ambassador, before we start, to unmute your mic. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic, Ambassador. Last but not least, we have Minister Clifford Grimes. He is the establishmentarian of the Roach Center of the Way, a teacher of embodied spirituality and devoted to expanding consciousness. His work guides individuals from survival-based living into regulated, spirit-led alignment of body, nervous system, and soul. His approach restores harmony between spirit and structure, helping individuals move from fragmentation into coherence. Let's hear a great big applause for Minister Clifford Grimes. Awesome. Awesome. So as you can see, we have a great panel assembled here this evening. So after this commercial, we're going to come back to tackle this first question. And this first question is, what does enlightened people look and feel like? We're going to tackle that right after this first commercial. We'll be right back.
Your core values are so intrinsic to who you are. This is why you become better suited to a partner who shares your values and your beliefs. If you are not aware of what your core values are, it will become very difficult for you to recognize a partner with whom you are fundamentally compatible with. So my question becomes, are you awake and ready to date?
Welcome all of you. I'm so happy to have all of you on the panel with me tonight. We're going to call this evening a night of mastermind thinkers. All of you, I love your thought process. I love how you develop your thoughts. And how you articulate what you are thinking. So tonight, my first question is, what does enlightened people look and feel like to you? I'll let one of you go first. What does enlightened people look and feel like to you? One of you take that. All right, I'm gonna have to pick
Enlightened
someone.
people. Go
Okay,
ahead.
there
Sorry.
it is. Bishop, you go.
Enlightened people are curious. They are not stagnated. They are not stalemated. They are not spiritually or philosophically, ideologically, or religiously constipated. Amen. Sure.
Ooh,
They are always open. They are born again new every day. They walk into the kingdom as little children, curiously and inquisitively. They value questions as much or more than they value answers. They are open to the moving of spirit in, through, around, and as them. They have a respect for their own agency. They understand that they already know what they are looking for. And so it's not a process of finding something new. It is a process of removing obstacles to reveal what they already know deep within. We live, we move, we have our beingness in the ultimate and brilliant mind of the universe that we call God, the I am that I am. And so enlightened people, I would say, aren't necessarily enlightened, they are enlightening. They're always in the process. We are being transformed, not by the renewed mind, but by the renewing of our minds. That's just a little commercial of what enlightened people, I believe, or enlightening people look like.
I want to touch on something you said there about spiritual constipation. Did I get that right?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, so spiritual constipation to me is something that's blocked. Because when
Yep.
there's constipation, something's blocking. So therefore, the flow, there's no flow. You can't get that flow. And to me, when you understand this rhythm to life, this rhythm to life has to have a flow,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
What do you think blocks that flow to the rhythm to life? Because again, we don't have to make anything happen. It's already happening. We just have to be a part of what's already happening and understand how to find that flow. What's blocked?
Well, most of what blocks that is the ego. The ego tells us that we are what we have, that we are what we think, we are what we do, and we are positional. Meaning, if you do something in life early on that you experience a bit of success with, you tend to continue doing that thing even though your cheese has moved. And so when we're in that transitional and liminal space from religious, social, relationship, ideological bondage, before we move into the promised land, there is always a wilderness space, a connection point. In that wilderness, we must eat the question. The children of Israel for 40 years in the wilderness ate a mysterious food called manna. In the Hebrew, that word is translated as "what is this?" or the whatness of God. And so the way that we become unconstipated, the way we get things moving again, is when we let go of mastery and we begin to surrender to the mystery. The student, when it is ready, the teacher will appear. And so the Holy Spirit doesn't just come to bring us information that we already have, it's to bring us into new, all truth. And so letting the ego go, even accepting some sense of demotion, allowing yourself to learn and then learn again. Repentance, when Jesus preached his first sermon, repent, the kingdom of God is at hand. That word in the Greek is the word metanoe. Meta or mind, no way to think. And so, or again. So in essence, what the word is saying is once you've thought, think again. And so that's I believe how we unblock the channel.
Love it. Dr. Sophie, Reverend Hall, any guys want to add, or what does enlightened people look and feel like to you?
I'll add.
Well, he actually shared some of the things that are, noticeable to me as well. First of all, to transcend the ego, and that is like a foundation. It's more like, a candle and a laser, a candle flickering. It's just not just the light. An enlightened person, you can feel the precise focus laser in their wellness and their in their presence, where you sometimes feel a sense of lightness, and you just being around them, you feel that through their presence, because of just not being into the ego. I mean, that's like one of the basic foundations for that I would say, and I totally agreed with what he said.
Reverend Hall, you were speaking.
Yeah, I was just to add, I ditto with Bishop, and I also add that enlightened people to me
I
carry
think
a
his mic might
peaceful
be muted.
and joyful presence. They move through life with calm purpose and a trust in God rather than being ruled by fear or worry. When you're around them, you naturally just feel uplifted and at ease. I believe this kind of presence comes from being grounded, and something that here at Verity Center we have coined called PMSing, which is prayer, meditation, and the silence, which keeps them centered in the divine within, which I also refer to as the Christ consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful.
Love it. Love it. How about you two gentlemen? Love it. Thank you, Reverend Hall. Ambassador Grimes, you want to chime in on there before I go to the next?
Yeah,
I think what everybody said is
I did.
good.
Grimes, I'm coming to you last. New bed, go ahead.
I totally agree with what Bishop Deepak said about enlightening people, and at this age that we are, it takes a lot of courage to be enlightened, because you can see the product of enlightenment and not be ready to take advantage of it. Like one of the things Bishop Deepak started was that enlightened people stay curious. Me, I see enlightened people as people who are in a buffet and they pick a choice of what they want to eat, and without condemning what others choose to eat. And when you are with them, you feel peace in their presence.
Yeah.
Like Reverend Hall have said, you feel peace in their presence. They are people that allow every thought process, but they decide which one to pick. And picking that does not necessarily mean that they oppose what others are picking. So that's what I want to add to that.
Love it. Love it. And before I bring Reverend Grimes, Minister Grimes up, give me that again. What is PMSing?
PMSing is prayer, meditation, and silence.
I'll send you some royalties because I'm gonna use that. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I love to hear the men in my church say, "Reb, I'm PMSing." Okay.
Minister Grimes, what does enlightened people look and feel like to you?
Well, actually, I agree with everything that I've heard. Don't have much more to add to that. My experience has been that it's enlightened people have the amazing ability to become nothing, but yet everything at the same time, and that is an amazing power, because that almost you have to have a sense that you have mastered the ego, because the ego work for you. The ego going to work for you. It's work to build you, and if you're not careful, it will overdo its work towards you. So when you can master the ego and just know that I'm nothing, but yet I'm everything, and I'm all inclusive of everything and everybody.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm nothing, but I'm everything.
Yes.
I like. So in your role then, how do you in your role enlighten people? And I'm going to make this a twofold. In your role, how do you enlighten people? And what is one thing you would say to someone who needs to feel enlightened tonight? Either one of you. Dr. Sophie, I'll pick Dr. Sophie. In your role, how do you enlighten people? And what is one thing that you would say to someone tonight who needs to feel enlightened?
I would definitely enlighten people through letting them illuminate their shadows and the blind spot in their conscious mind, so that they connect more into their self-awareness and they self-lead better. When you are able to have that awareness, you are able to surrender and allow yourself to receive with no resistance. And one, I would say that just sometimes be still and let God. Sometimes you just have to pause a little bit and allow your mind not to race to the future and be more in the present moment and deal with what you are dealing with in more awareness, to understand where you're not trying to just solve a problem, but truly to outgrow the problem. And when you are able to be in that space, with time, you're going to realize that your conscious perspective also expands, because you are allowing that expansion from within.
Like it. Like it. Anyone wants to add to that before we go on to the next?
I would just say in my role as a spiritual leader, I help people discover and live the spiritual principles espoused by the Universal Foundation for Better
Yeah.
Living. I
Yeah.
also use laughter yoga to lift the
Yes.
spirit, to release stress, and to open hearts to joy. And so tonight, I would say you could take a moment and just laugh.
Amen.
Just laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
telling you, I've come out of my most profound meditation laughing,
Yes.
just laughing. It makes a difference.
And doesn't he make us laugh at times when there are things that are in front of us, it appear to be undoable or impossible, but yet we have to look at it and laugh, because there is nothing that is really impossible. All things are possible if you just believe. And what do you have to believe? You have to believe that you can. Bishop, what about you?
You know, the role in helping people to find empowerment in the self, in the soul, in relationships, it is inner work. I would resonate with what the other panelists have offered previously. I would offer one bit of how would we say, maybe a Buddhist detachment. Buddhism teaches that we are not our minds, that we are the awareness, we are the observer. I would teach it this way. In my spiritual context, I would say that we are not our beliefs. The belief about the self, the belief about theology, politics, culture, God, religion. We are spirits capable of having beliefs. When you begin to identify yourself with a belief and then something shifts, your identity is crushed. Instead of being your beliefs, you are the spirit capable of having beliefs, of considering beliefs. And so I would really kind of break it down a little bit more like Eckhart Tolle would bring to us, both in A New Earth and in The Power of Now. And that is, you have the thinker, you have the thoughts, and then you have the observer of the thinker having the thought. And so many of us, a lot of humanity gets stuck in thoughts. I am white, I am male, I am heterosexual, I am from the South, all of these things that might define me, that's in the thoughts. The thinker is the place where you store memories around that thought. How have I experienced my life as in my white skin, in my maleness, in my Americanness, in my, at least for a portion of my life, in my Christianity? And then I begin to define myself by the thoughts and the thinker and the storage of those thoughts. But I realize at some point, I am not those temporary ideas. I'm an eternal creature, eternal spirit having a temporary human experience and expression. That is when I slip into that observation space, where I step out of the experience and I say, I'm not just the memory bank. I'm not just the attitudes and the opinions and the biases and the prejudices. I'm not just the thoughts. I am the awareness of those things. And in that awareness, we are able to help both ourselves and those around us really reach a different level of their capacity from that space of observation.
Love it. Don't they call where we store? I think I read somewhere they call it like there's a place they call Ingraph.
Hmm.
It's called Ingraph. It's where we store so much there, and then that's where it comes from. It comes up from that place of the Ingraph, and then it becomes ingrained. And
Mhm.
then we begin to believe what was in the Ingraph because now it's ingrained into who we think we are. That's why we begin to act as if that's what it is, because it's
Beautiful.
been engrafted in us,
Yeah, I love
right?
that. Hmm.
Yeah. What about you, you two? Before we go to the next, anything you want to add there?
I want to just go back to the laughter yoga because obviously I love that. Uh, and it's true because, the science of laughter itself is amazing. When you're able to relax and get to a state of zero, you cannot be angry and laugh at the same time or cry and laugh at the same time. And if we go back to the beginning, as an infant, you would laugh, you would cry, you would poop, you would rest, right?
Hmm.
And you would eat. And if we look at just those basic things that an infant would do and do, you cannot be any deficient of any of them as an adult. If you are going to not be in harmony from within. If you are stressed and you're not releasing, you need to sometimes cry to release. It's not a bad thing. You need to laugh. I mean, infants laugh before they can walk. Because when you laugh, your diaphragm exercises the most, all your organs. It boosts your immune system. And it's really, really like Norman Cousin was able to really get moments of relief of his chronic deadly disease by going away from the hospital and asking the doctors to give him a month away before he goes back because he was like a hopeless case. And what he did, he was watching comedies, listening to jokes, and when he came back, they couldn't understand his results and how he was able to heal even for moments of chronic pain. So when they say laughter is the best medicine, unfortunately, in our corporate world and fast-paced living and technology, we are not able to connect with our childlike playfulness, which is extremely important. The sense of curiosity, like you mentioned earlier, the imagination. Without imagination, there's nothing that can be expanded. There's no hope, there's no vision. And when we're able to be more relaxed, less stressed, our cortisol levels are not as high, which causes higher inflammation, which also causes your vagus nerve to be more inflamed, and it will affect all parts of your body. Therefore, in that state of vibration, you are on a much lower frequency. In that frequency is so low that it's hard for you to be in a creative, optimized mindset. So when they did the scale and muscle testing on of course the emotions, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, that shame and guilt were like the lowest. And courage was about 200 in the scale. And that's when things starts to shift. Of course, gratitude and love were on the highest frequencies. But truly, 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 I just had to go and piggyback on that for the laughter because we need to remember that. When I lost my mother, I remember signing up for a laughter yoga class. And it wasn't because I was happy. It was because I was very emotionally attached. And she was a big part of my daily, walk of life. We were like good best friends. And so I had to do something positive to my system and understand it. When I understood the science of laughter, where when they did laughter yoga, you laugh for no reason, even the subconscious mind won't know the difference between false and real. And when you're able to start understanding that and creating a time where we're not so like, occupied with issues and the news, which we have to be part of society. We have to be positive, but we have to be realistic so we can be prepared better. But there's one thing that you can really work on is your vibration. And when that frequency transcends the lower vibration. You are able to create and arrive to destinations faster than most. So that was just a little input that I wanted to add to
That
that.
was a lot. That was a lot input. That was a lot. Listen, we're gonna take a commercial. When we come back, Apostle Ambassador Newband and Clifford Minister Grimes, I'm going to start with you guys. The question I'm going to ask when we come back is, what does empowered relationships look and feel like? We're going to come back after this commercial and answer that question. Hey, you guys can get a copy of the latest book, Awake and Ready to Date. You can see it right there across the screen. Go to creggierogers.com. Get the latest copy of Awake and Ready to Date. Tonight, too, I want you guys to know that don't leave, because we're going to debut the latest song from Anthony. I can't, from Atlanta. He was the musician for Bishop Eddie Long, and I can't even think of his. How do I not know his name? And he and I are so close. But anyway, we're gonna debut his song tonight during one of the commercials, so you don't want to miss it. And the song is actually called "Expanded Consciousness," and Anthony Randolph. We're going to debut his song. Anthony Randolph came out of New Birth. He traveled with Bishop Eddie Long all over the country with that pretty music you would hear in the background when Eddie Long was preaching. That was Anthony Randolph. So in our next commercial, you don't want to leave. It's called Expanded Consciousness, and we're going to debut a portion of that for Anthony Randolph out of Atlanta. Okay, Minister Grimes, what does empowered relationships look and feel like to you?
Empowered relationships. Well, I see empowered relationships. To me, what gives that relationship the power is the fact that you're in a relationship with yourself. And I think that's the first thing that a person has to conquer and understand, is that you're in such a great relationship with yourself that makes it easy to be in relationship with anybody else, whether it's a intimate partner, a business partner, or, just a spiritual affiliation. Once you can master yourself, then you're able to do and be able to be among almost anybody. I hear feedback. So.
Yeah, you okay?
Okay, and especially on the intimate side of it, you're always looking for yourself, because you'll never love anybody more than you love yourself. So once a person find themselves, now you're able to make an intelligent and spiritual choice of what you want walking beside you, who you want to be in your life with. And I'm just going to make it quick, because what my experience is that once you find you, and you find the person that mirrors you to you, you'll always come home to you. And the power of that is just, it's out of this world. It's really out of this world to be in sync with somebody that allows you to be you, actually totally loves you for you, enjoy being you. So when we say that I'm in love with you, you're actually saying that I'm in love with how I feel when I'm with you, how you make me feel, how I feel around you. And that's empowering all by itself, because that's going to be hard to break. It's going to be hard to destroy, because of the fact that I'm dealing with myself. I'm enjoying myself as I enjoy this person. I'm in union with myself as I'm in union with them, and that just keeps it. Even when we talk about expanded consciousness, my word for that is, it just means more, and it keeps going. just keep going. It's never stop. So in a power relationship, they just keep going.
So, when you talk about having that relationship with yourself, I put it this way: the basis of all relationships is self, because you can't have a relationship with anyone else unless you have that relationship with you. So the basis of all relationships are what we say the substratum of relationships becomes self. Self is the basis of all relationships. With that understanding, that simply means you can't go into a relationship, say, I'm gonna change them, I'm gonna change him, or whatever. The only person you can change is you. That's the
Right.
basis. You can change you. What do you think, Ambassador Newbad?
Yeah. My kind of the way I look at it, 2024, we had a conference, and it was Emancipation Conference, and a lady that was above, I think, in her early 50s, after she finished hearing some of the things that I was sharing, and then she came up and said, all my life, I've never had all of these things you said today. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to incorporate that into my life.
Mm.
When I started by saying enlightening people, it takes a lot of courage to be enlightened, because there is availability of knowledge, but there's some knowledge that that if I get involved with this kind of knowledge, it's going to change me. And a lot of people just shy away from it, because I'm speaking from my own kind of background. Imagine being a child and all you are hearing are things that disconnect you from you. They are not things that is trying to help you see the stuff you are made of, that you came here with. Like Bishop D. Parker said, that we're eternal being. And so I think one of the things that makes us disconnect with ourselves is because, let me put it this way, when you want to go to school, you kind of look at the one that is best for you and meets your objectives, and you decide, because definitely you're going to be spending your money in acquiring that kind of knowledge. And so you look for the location that best fits you, and then you look for the one that has what you want. But some of us, like from my background, from my foundation, you don't decide where you allow your mind to be schooled,
Yeah.
and you are just born, and this is what is available. Like, it took me a
Mm.
very long time to be able to see an alternative to the truth I was exposed to. I remember some young men when they came to me, and one time they said they wanted to help me. We started having a conversation, and they said they know that I'm looking for truth. I said, no, I'm looking for more truths. And so our religious background and where we came from did not give us that choice. And that's why, from my part of the world, loving yourself is very difficult, because you are not even allowed to think in that direction. Somebody is always there to think for you, somebody is always there to condition your mind. And so our minds have been so schooled to an extent where fear has become an imposed lecturer. And because of some of this concept that we came up with, it's kind of difficult for you to step out of this. And what was a little bit sad for me was, we had that conference for just 3 days, and for the 3 days I could see how free people were. I could see how free people began to develop thought pattern that empowered them and empowered the relationship with themselves. But another thing I
Okay.
was also sad is that by the time they leave here, they go back to the very things that they were eating. And
Mm.
so we don't really give that a consideration. That is why for now I have children that I'm kind of being careful with what their mind is exposed to, because you cannot have a healthy relationship with God without first having a healthy relationship with yourself.
Right.
And
Agreed.
most of the things that are available out there are people trying to impose themselves on you based on their mental reasoning, based on their own. That I see it as people who are trying to find themselves, but they get to a point where they come up with some kind of cliches that they've understood to be truth, and they think they can impose that on you. And unfortunately, we don't get careful with who we allow to school our mind. And another thing too is
Let
one
me
of the
say
things
this.
that
Let me cut you off a second, Ambassador Newbert. Let me just cut you off for a second because I want to get everybody in on a time, and I'm seeing we're getting to so there's somewhere I want to go. Hold that thought, okay?
okay,
Where you are,
okay,
hold that thought. I want to ask Reverend Hall about an enlightened relationship. I'm sorry, an empowered
Empower.
relationship. An
Yeah.
empowered relationship.
When I think of an empowered relationship, I personally think of my relationship with my son, and I'll tell you why. Empowered relationships to me feel like a space where growth and learning are evident, where a student not only grasps the lesson, but applies it with confidence,
Mhm.
sometimes even surpassing the teacher's expectation. It's a relationship rooted in mutual respect, encouragement, and freedom to flourish. When I think of my son, he and I have worked together and him as an adult in different educational settings. And the lesson that I presented to him, I call it, it's a black and white lesson. But when I see him put that same lesson into facilitating it, it comes out like a colorful picture. And it, for me, it lets me know that he took that lesson that I laid out for him and took it to another level. And so I see him as being empowered by that. And I also
Yeah.
think of Jesus when he says, the things that I do, you can do even greater. And
Yeah.
so that's what I see when I think of an empowered relationship.
Make,
Beautiful.
Bishop Pope, come on, I got an empowered relationship.
Empowered relationship really respects the agency of the self and the agency of others. Uh, Ambassador Nubet talked about imposing thoughts on others. King David was going into fight Goliath, and the first king of Israel, Saul, tried to put his armor on David. And David finally said, "Look, dude, I don't fight like this. I I have a slingshot and I've got God's presence. That's all I." And so you got to remember not to wear somebody else's clothes,
Yes.
and you have to remember not to put your clothes on someone else. I've had many mentors in my life, and some of them, to be honest with you, Reverend Rogers, have tried to put their clothes on me. And I had to have enough intestinal fortitude in a respectful way to say, I honor you, I love you, thank you for what you're imparting or awakening within me, but I can't wear your clothes. I have to connect to the self, the soul, and to the mind of the universe the way that I connect.
Love it. Love it. Dr. Sophie, you want to bring it home in a small amount of time for me?
When we are not in a state of just reacting in the relationship and truly, like a lot of you guys, the panels truly covered a lot of the things that I would have shared. So, but I will just go ahead and just add to that. When we have a foundation that is built on trust and growth and gratitude, we are able to flourish and respect our individuality equally as our union. And
Yeah.
that really does make a lot of growth an area for expansion. When you say, oh, he completes me, I complete him, when you complete each other, you are complete. When you expand one another, you're more expansive and you're growing and you're flourishing. That is when you have really went to a higher level of consciousness in the way you are growing together. So curiosity again is key in a relationship. When you're curious instead of angry, When you're curious instead of being afraid, as a couple, as a business partner, as a relationship with self, then you allow for a lot of growth to enter, and you definitely get into more of an empowered state than a disempowered one.
I love it. So I was leading into this last question, which is really what is expanded consciousness. That's what I was leading, and I think that we've set the foundation for enlightened, empowered, so that we can get into expansion. So I was leading into that so we can get to this last question is what is expanded consciousness? So after this commercial, we're going to tackle that. But I want to debut this expanded consciousness by none other than Minister Anthony Randolph out of Atlanta, Georgia. Let's check this out.
I think, therefore I am. I speak into the land. Words fall down like rain, seeds waking in the sand. Expanded consciousness, it makes a difference. It's my reality, it is my destiny. Expanded consciousness, it makes a difference. It's my reality, it is my
That's just a little bit of expanded consciousness by Anthony Randolph. I think, therefore I am. As you think, so you become. I love what he said there. It's my destiny, it's my reality. And this is really where we're going with this expanded consciousness tonight. So what is expanded consciousness? What really is I'm actually going to start with you, Bishop, only because you have a network of expanding consciousness. This is a part of your network. Let's start with you. From you, Bishop, I want to go to you, Reverend Hall. From Reverend Hall, I want to go to you, Bishop, Minister Grimes. From you, Minister Grimes, I'm coming to you, Dr. Sophia, Minister Newbed, Ambassador Newbed, I'm going to come to you. And try to keep your answers to a minimum if you can. But what is expanded consciousness, Bishop Polk?
Expanded and expanding.
Yes.
I'm the presiding prelate of the International Communion of it. We first actually named it expanded consciousness, and I sat with it for a couple of days and thought, I don't want to be an expanded consciousness, even though of course it's a play on words, but expanding consciousness. It's where you celebrate truth as a journey, not as a destination. We're mindful of the words of Jesus, who repeatedly says, "You have heard of old, but I say to you." The first 5 words we get in our Hebrew Bible, in the beginning God created. That is literally the foundation of expanded consciousness. The Hebrew word there, in the beginning, is the word berashit, and it really just means when God began to begin. So it should be translated in a beginning. And then we get to the word create. In the beginning, God created. That word there in the Hebrew is bara. And that literally means to clear out or to carve away space. And so in this way of expanding consciousness, we are always both creating and recreating. I'm created by God. I'm creative like God, and I'm creating as and with God. And so it is a continual process of agreeing to our eternalness, as Bishop Pearson would say, our skinless, sinless, endless, nameless, blameless, shameless image and likeness of God and good in the earth.
Hey, Bishop, I heard an old preacher a long time ago say, he said, in the beginning, before the beginning began, God who had already began the beginning began the beginning before the beginning began.
Amen, Rev. Amen.
Reverend Hall, what is expanded consciousness?
Well, I'm going to go with when I think of John the Baptist having a conversation with Jesus, and I paraphrase it as, It must increase, but I must decrease.
Yeah.
And so when I think of it, it's an elevation of the Christ consciousness expressing through each one of us. The more we go inward and connect with the divine intelligence, the more our awareness become an expression of the understanding of expansion. And I like the way Bishop used expanding versus expanded, because it's constant. And so when I think of the decreasing, that's the surrender of the ego back to what we have discussed, but the expansion of the Christ consciousness, which we could do that lifetime after lifetime after lifetime continuously. And I'll end with that.
It's a continuum. I love it. Mr. Grimes?
Well, yes. Well, if I had to,
And this is your wheelhouse. This is your wheelhouse. You teach this. This is right where you are. Expanded consciousness.
yes, and I love it. I love it. But if I had to just define that in one word, the word would be more. And when you get to the full of that more, there's another more, and there's another more, and there's another more. It don't quit. So I like how Bishop had explained about because first I was saying expanded consciousness, and then I realized I had the same realization that he had, that this didn't just expand, it keeps expanding. You know, and it's a consciousness that takes you to places that you've never been before. So it can get quite scary, and it'll bring knowledge to you that you never known before. But yet there's a resonance in your soul that when you hear that you never heard before, you're good with it because it's going to bring rest to your spirit and rest to the soul, rest to the nervous system. And when everything line up and come in alignment with other, Yahshua spoke something about that when you come into the house, you got to make peace with what's in the house. And we forget sometimes that we are the very host of God. We host God in our body. This is where God lives. And our body is not just a part of it, or abstract part of it, but our bodies is needed so that the soul can find its rest and thrive, and so that the spirit find its place and begin to flow without restriction. And that's all going to depend on how well how well is your nervous system regulated, and it becomes our responsibility to regulate this whole thing that we are hosting, because we are hosting God. We're not just hosting an experience, but we are hosting God in our bodies. That's where if we really believe this, because this is the only way that we can say that I'm God, not the creator of the universe, but I am a chip off of that. I'm a spark from that, and in that spark, I'm the same thing as the whole is. And so, in my idea of expanded consciousness is when the awareness just keep widening. Every day, something coming that you didn't expect. You didn't study for it. You didn't research it. It just comes. And when it comes, it makes peace with you. And now you can go research it, and it expands some more. So it just keep coming. And a person has to be open for. Because if you're not open for it, our programmed mind is going to take a different way.
I love it. You got to be open, because that's being able to receive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to also be ready.
Yeah.
So you got to also know how to recognize, but then you have to know how to receive. So you got to be ready, know how to recognize. You got to know how to receive, because Bishop, you're gonna make me change my moniker. It's not dating from an expanded conscious perspective anymore. It's dating from an expanding conscious perspective now. Dr. Sophie, what is expanded consciousness to you?
I would say it's the door for transformation. It's the door of transformation. It's when you're allowed to be and let be. when you're allowed to respect other people's boundary, but at the same time be assertive of protecting yours in a way that is in respect so that you can honor your guiding principles, but at the same time, to allow yourself to surrender and listen and see that sometimes you have your confirmation biases that is actually influencing your direction, just like Ambassador Nubu said, that sometimes you are conditioned and influenced by programs from your parents and culture and traditions rather than your true self that is really experiencing this earth experience, and truly what do you really want, and how would you like to apply yourself in this destination that you are going towards. So door for transformation is expanding and expanded conscious perspective.
I love
All
that.
right, Ambassador Newbad, what is expanding consciousness to you?
Yeah, like what Bishop D. Porter said, um, I'm going to speak on behalf of a burden in my heart, which is real. Now, you when expanding, it is you giving your mind the ability to experience new forms of truth.
Yes.
But in my culture and where I come from, so many minds have already been stolen.
Wow.
So there are people that throughout their lifetime, because of religious construct, they may never give the mind the opportunity to do what Bishop Deepak said, expanding. And so those are the people that I'm kind of sad for. Because we have a typical example of Absalom's relationship and that of David. David is the king. And when people have challenges, the palace and the throne is open for people to come. But there is a guy at the gate who is not just a stranger to the kingdom, but a son who has specialized in preventing people from having access to the king. And so he does that in a very technical and cunning way that is you can't suspect it, because you will think he is hearing from the king and passing the thoughts of the king to you at the gate, but not knowing that the objective is buried in wanting to impose himself and what he knows on people, because he's also eyeing the throne. And so there are a whole lot of people that you cannot even start the issue of expanding because their minds from childhood has been taken advantage of, stolen. So my passion with I listen to Bishop Deepak whenever I have the opportunity to, because I'm kind of looking at him and I said, sometimes I feel, how can I just take this man and just throw him into the ocean of my reality and let people hear him talk? Because these people, they have been hearing people talk to them for ages. If I take Bishop Deepak to come to my conference for just 7 days or 3 days, he cannot even do anything. Because these are clips that have been on the minds of people, have been repeated again and again. So there have been a lot of Absalom. And the sad thing is that most of these guys are doing this based on, I don't know, they are not even aware of the extent of the damage. And that is why I started my conversation with saying that enlightenment to me means courage because of where I'm flowing from. You need to be very courageous to be
Yeah.
able to get into that place where Paul said that our minds being enlightened, the letter to the Ephesians. A lot of people have gotten to a point in their life where they are just stuck with that reality and it's comfortable for them. So they are not expanding, there are no potentials of expanding, and there is nothing that you can do with the minds. And the sad reality is most of these people are going to go in the grave with this. But what I see the expanding to be is giving people the freedom, teaching them the freedom to come into your space and be able to think, no matter the claims you have, no matter the certainty you have about the truth. But again, how do you begin to undo things? Like I shared an example of a lady who was with me in the conference in her early 50s, all through her life. She had me talk about inclusion and expanding for the first time. And she is saying, you need to come to our city in Port Harcourt to continue this. And so most of the things we were born into, and that is why I've taken that responsibility.
So I guess it's connection. Can you guys hear me good?
Yes.
We're hearing you.
Okay. So I just wanted to add what he's saying. I think we lost him on his connection, but I just wanted to add what he's saying because, you know, in America too, we're conditioned. We're conditioned from birth. I don't know that it's not just in his country, you know, we've been conditioned as well, you know, because the mind has been trained by conditioning that says, look outside for answers.
Right.
That's what we typically do. You know, we've been raised to seek approval, to earn love, to prove your worth by performance. And so tonight, this is all about expanding so that we understand that the truth, to me, the truth represents as long as you need something outside of you to complete you, you'll never tap into the power.
Mm-hmm.
That power to receive, that power that's inside. So expanding, it's a continuum. And so tonight, I hope we started a conversation that continues so that people will begin to connect the dots, enlightened, empowered, expanding, enlightened, empowered, expanding. Something is spoken is said that enlightens you. Something is said that is spoke that empowers you. Because I believe that enlightenment and empowerment, those two are akin. Because once you become enlightened, you become empowered. And then once you become empowered, then you can expand, right? Just like I believe awakened and aware are akin. Once you become aware and awakened, then it's like being enlightened and empowered. That's expansion. And all of this, all of you said tonight had all to do with becoming aware. So I hope this has been a blessing to you all as it has been to me. Understanding, expanding. You've taken me now. I got to change. Listen, I got to change all my literature. Bishop Pope. I got to get everything I changed to expanding, not expanded, right?
See, Reggie, I would comment on that. And like, you know, Abraham Maslow, when we had the pyramid and self-actualization was the top of the pyramid. And years later, and I actually spoke about that a few years ago, and I didn't realize that it was actually his last concept was self-transcendence. So you can never reach a state of self-actualization and mastery till the day you die. If you're learning and growing, you're continuing to be in a state of transcendence. You will stop wanting to be the center of attention, but the center of gravity, because you will be that grounded and ascended in the soul ascension that continues to happen in this growth momentum that you're in. So that's where you resonated with expanding today.
Yes. Reverend Hall, any parting words for us before we get ready to go?
As I was thinking about this, I'm reminded of being in the space when Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman talked about, because when I think of, again, an expanding and consciousness, it's an awakening. And she had an awakening moment. She said, we used to hear all the time, we are spiritual beings having human experiences. And in this particular moment, she said, we are spiritual beings having spiritual experiences.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That was an expanding of and a shift in her consciousness.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes, parting words?
It's not not that anybody on the panel need this, but I just think that as we go through, to spread enlightenment, maybe we can have that prayerful thought for the people is that they come to the experience that you're not in this world. You didn't come to this earth to decide so that it could be decided upon whether or not you're good enough to go to heaven or whether you're bad enough to go to hell. You're only here for an experience that you might find yourself, as the scripture said with the prodigal son, he came to himself. We're only here to come to ourselves. And that make your whole lifetime worthwhile.
Yes.
Wow. Listen, Bishop, you got the last. Listen, he just opened that. Come to yourself. You can run with that, Bishop.
Minister Grimes, Jesus positions that as salvation. People
Yes.
think there's only one way to get saved, but that is what we study in seminary. It's called soteriology. That coming to the self is a salvific moment. It does not necessarily require a confession or a belief. It's an awakening. I'm coming back to myself. I perceive that Jesus came to himself. He was asked by the rich young ruler, a young rabbi. He said, good teacher. And he said, hold on. Why do you call me good? No one is good but God. The next chapter, in the Gospel of Mark, he says, I'm so good that if you don't let them praise, the rocks will cry out. And so even in Jesus' earthly journey, there was a coming to the self. I want to gift you guys with this, and it'll only take about 20 seconds. There's been so much offered tonight. I'm so honored to have both met and reunited with some of you. I just, I believe your vibe attracts your tribe. You guys are my tribe. You can just feel it. But I want to gift you with this, something that we do every week at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. Everyone just take a big deep breath and then let that breath go. And as we take and give that breath, we are surrendered to the mind of the universe. And this is how we say it at Spirit and Truth. We say, Spirit of Truth, carry me where you want. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will and awaken in me what you will. We are surrendered. Amen. And so it is.
Powerful. Powerful.
Thank you all for being a part of this panel tonight. I'm going to give some closing statements, and I really appreciate all of you being on this panel. It's 9 o'clock. It was 9 o'clock on the East Coast, so of course some of you have sacrificed your evening. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. All of you actually is 9 your time. I still early my time, but I really appreciate all of you. We're going to have to do this again in the very near future. Well, my closing remarks are very simple. To expand in your consciousness, it means you have to become conscious of your unconscious thoughts. You have to become aware of your automatic programs. You must catch yourself in the act of being yourself. This takes effort. It takes will. It takes energy. Most people will say they want to change, but they're not willing to give up their old self to become their new self. Most want a new life, but they want to bring their old personality with them. This is impossible. You cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of the past. You must be willing to expand in your consciousness. The question is, who do you want to be? Not who you were, not who you are based off of your past, but who do you choose to become? I hope tonight has enlightened, empowered, and hopefully expanded you to help you to ponder these questions. So don't focus on what's missing, but let's focus on what we intend to create. Where your attention goes, of course, that's how your energy flows. And so do you remember who you were before the world told you who you are? I want to thank Action Shot Productions for allowing this to happen tonight, by allowing everything to flow smoothly. Steven Sebo, Larry Love from Action Shot Productions. They have their information down below. If you want to get them to do your podcast, please get Action Shot Productions. I'm sorry. And then don't forget to get your copy of Awake and Ready to Date. You can go to creggierogers.com. And thank all of you. Thank my guests. Thank all of you for tuning in tonight on YouTube and Facebook. And we'll be back with another virtual gathering in the very near future. You guys have a wonderful night. Thanks again.
Thanks.
I am your host, C. Reggie Rogers, renowned relationship coach, author, television host, radio host, podcast host, and I consider myself a singles empowerment coach. Now, when I say singles empowerment coach, my objective is to literally teach singles